Hey. May I? Good. Let's start. Good. Okay. Well, thanks everyone to coming here today. We have a fantastic PugliaTechs Talks. Today we have EY that is hosting us here in Bari, probably the best city view we ever seen in our events. So today is going to be the usual mix of business, technology, startups. Our media partner is Millionaire, and so given we are a little bit tight on time, I guess we can start with institutional greetings from one leader that is covering financial services, AI, and I guess pretty much all the innovative projects in EY. Yep. So, thank you very much, Leonardo.
Thank you very much. So, hello everyone, and welcome to the EY Bari Hub. I am so pleased to see so many of you attending this PugliaTechs community event tonight. My name is Leonardo Galimberti. I am a partner at EY, and I am responsible for the AI and data practice for the financial services here in Italy. I'm very, very excited to attend this event together with you. I think that tonight is all about the great synergy and opportunity that happen when we bring together, passionate people, startups, and businesses to create a powerful network that can really drive the growth and innovation in the tech scene here in Puglia. And you may know that EY is very committed to this region. We do believe in the potential, and we have invested heavily to create a platform to support connection, to support development and innovation with this hub. And so it's really inspiring to see how our effort can contribute to such a vibrant community of tech people and entrepreneurs. So as we go through the event tonight, I recommend that you connect with each other and you share ideas and you find new opportunities. And we have a super agenda, and Marco in a few minutes will talk about it. And at the end of the event, we will also have a networking opportunity, so don't miss it. Thanks again for joining. Let's get the best out of this event, enjoy it, and with that, I hand it over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Leonardo. I think, as you said, it's jam-packed. So we have people talking about enterprises, use and misuses of LLMs. We have someone else covering all the deal making, the private equity, and how AI is impacting their thinking. And then, of course, the batch of startups. But before jumping into the talks, I guess we can have Leon. Leon talking a little bit more about PugliaTechs, which is still a young initiative, but it's important to spread the words every time we have this type of events. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. Thank you, Leonardo. My name is Leone, but Leonardo is even prettier, I think. Thank you all very much for coming. I agree on the view. It's really amazing, really inspiring. So that helps a lot. I'm going to quickly talk you through what PugliaTechs is so far, because as Marco said, then we go into the real interesting part, and those are the speakers. Just for my curiosity, who's been to a PugliaTechs talk before? Ah, good. So we have a mix of people who know a little bit about us and some new people. So welcome to the newbies and the other ones, thank you very much for coming again. So, PugliaTechs, why? Last time I showed this article, it was actually of that day's newspaper, because still the stats are, you know, people are leaving Italy and often not coming back. So I know companies and the region is working on it. So also, you know, thanks to you guys. But it is really something that worries us, because it's okay if you want to leave, but you should also, you know, have a possibility to come back. So it's still very necessary. So who are PugliaTechs? Basically, we say, and Marco and the other Marco here are two of the founders. Francesco isn't here tonight, but they started this about 8 months ago as a grassroots community. So from the bottom up and really building a community. So they're all passionate tech enthusiasts. That is visible, I think. But there's also entrepreneurs and corporates involved, so like EY, and also other people that, other companies that have already hosted us. We have startup founders among us, so they share best practices and, you know, they come and learn. And they are from Puglia and beyond. And we are always very thrilled to see people that maybe come from here and they've been abroad, that they are still abroad, and they come back and they bring so much energy and so much knowledge. So that is how this community is actually growing. Why? Well, the mission, I'm going to read it out to you because I don't know it by heart yet. Foster growth through knowledge sharing, networking, and hands-on events, both online and in person. Okay, we live in a digital period. Obviously, we all love digital technology, but we also really want to see each other, look at each other, be together, and co-create the real events. So we do a mix of both. And we want to create a tech renaissance for Puglia, because we truly believe in it. We truly believe in the regional innovation that is possible. So hence why we're doing it here. How do we do it? Well, we have this global perspectives, but we have Puglia roots. We either are from Puglia, like many of you, or we love Puglia, like me. And we want to put it on a global map. There's other innovation hubs around the globe. Obviously, Silicon Valley is the most known, but there's so many others, and we are like, why not here? There's so much things we can use from the institutions here, the companies, the people, and bring it all together. So we truly believe in that. And yes, as I said before, we want to empower the local talents, that they either stay here, or if they go away, they have something to come back to. So that are the two pillars we built this up on. So far, we've been busy for about 8 months, and as you can see, we've had some press attention. The events are getting more and more visited. So also tonight again, it's good to see, you know, a full area. And it's thanks to our location sponsors that we've been able to also involve different kind of people. So yeah, we're growing. I think we just passed 1,000 followers mark on LinkedIn. So it was a bit of a milestone. We have a Telegram channel with about 300 people. We launched a new website 2 months ago. So we're really, you know, step by step taking pragmatic small steps, but with a vision very clear. We shouldn't forget the corporate network, of course. We cannot do this without the corporates, so we are also in the transition phase of becoming an association, so we can really interface with the corporates, so they can create, we create brand awareness and they create brand awareness with our community. We want to think about how to facilitate recruitment, of course, to enable the access to innovative technologies and boost lead generation, because in the end, we also want to make business happen. That's what, you know, money is what makes the world spin around. We need, of course, in the end, also to do business. And of course, and that you will see also tonight, that's what mostly the speakers bring. They bring a lot of good examples, how it works, either in the big companies or in the startups, the best practices. Let's share, let's learn together, let's grow together, so we can make this a thriving community. Our ambition is to have 15 partners in the coming, let's say, in the first batch, as they say. 12 left. Oh, thank you for this update. So there's 12 left. So we're working on this. As I said, we can't do this without the corporates. but we also have, of course, we look at who are we connecting with each other, who can give, who can ask, how can we co-create. So there's different, we say, personas. That is, the design thinking part of this whole community. So we really try to tailor to the needs of everybody involved so we can exchange and grow together. We see it as an OS. As I said, we're tech enthusiasts. So it is a federated approach. We only thrive together. We think in communities, so we have a very common objective. We allow it for startups, enablers, and corporates that believe Puglia is their home or want Puglia to become their home. The institutions, as I mentioned, are essential to this network, and the investors, obviously. If we bring all this together, we can really make something happen. They did it in other places in the world, so we can also do it here. But most of all, obviously, we want people. We want people in the community. So for all of those who have not scanned this QR code yet, please do so. We will not sell your data because we are a non-profit community. We aim to stay non-profit forever. We will not make any use of your data, but we do need to understand who we have in a community, what your needs are, how we can tailor better, how we can set up the matching. So please, please scan the QR code and become a member of our community. And also really have a really good evening this evening. I think we have great speakers, and that's it from my part. So thank you, and off to Marco again.
Thank you very much, Leon. I think I just want to stress this concept that a community is built to serve the community. So it means that everyone could really benefit from what we do. So matching interest, matching businesses, funding professional, funding talent, funding investors. These are all things that technology could facilitate the goal. So this is very important for us. So let's move to the next. Okay. So okay. Yeah. So now we have a very senior, experienced leader in software and engineering that has been involved in a few events with us, with PugliaTechs, and so far the feedback has been positive. And I think a month ago he said, "Well, maybe it's time to have a talk and learn a little bit more about your experience." And so that's why Vadim today is with us. Vadim is gonna cover something that so far it's always been about young firms, but it's also important to understand. I think I translate this in kind of the opportunity, because big enterprises have big needs, but also sometimes are inefficient. So they are experimenting with generative AI, but sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. So that's what we want to hear, and learn the stories from the trenches from an enterprise perspective. So Vadim, the stage is yours. You have 20 minutes, and I'm gonna just say hi when it's 2 minutes left.
Okay, 1-1. So thank you first for having me here today. I will be speaking about how to improve productivity with AI technology in enterprises. Well, I hope that's very exciting. Can sound boring, but in reality it's not. And prior to it, I want to share with you a fact. The fact that always is in my mind for a year already. So currently, AI technology is consuming 10% of electricity of all data centers in the world. And this number will grow up to 50% in 3 to 4 years. So you can imagine the footprint of AI technology in the world. It's huge. And we live here, and it's getting hotter year over year, so it costs. So let's make it count. We need to improve productivity using AI, just not create some funny pictures over the internet. Few words about myself. Originally, I'm from Ukraine. I was an engineer when I graduated, and I worked in IT ever since. 20 years in IT. That's my kind of history. I went from engineer to a senior leader. I worked mainly in a fintech. That's my bigger, let's say, area of expertise. I work with big investment firms, with banks, like biggest names. They are at Deutsche Bank, Credit Suisse, many others, mainly in investment area, but as well in payments. As well, enterprise, of course, and health. I had big teams. I had as well small teams. I prefer, of course, to have like sizable teams that you can work with and you can move faster. And in my life, I love hiking. I'm a wine lover. So here you have my QR code to my LinkedIn. So please connect. And if you like wine, you can connect to me in Vivino as well. And I like tech. So I'm coding by myself. Despite I'm in leadership, I still believe that leaders in area they lead, they have to do some work by hand. So this is important, not get away from real field work. And at the moment, I am Director of Engineering in a great company. This is a services provider in software development area called Authority Partners. It is based in California, but we have offices here. So if you would want something, we are there for you. Let's come back to the productivity. It's really funny numbers because at the moment, as McKinsey recently revealed, this is a research of current year, 73% of companies in the world, they are actively enforcing usage of AI tools within the companies. They are really doing that. They are making their people use it. So everyone is there. And I have a question to you. How many of companies reported this year that after 2 years of using AI tools, they had significant boost of revenue and cost cut? So make a guess. 60. Any other ideas? 25. 10. Okay. 80. Okay. Surprise, surprise. It's not so huge. And we have to understand that McKinsey made research over small companies and really big companies. So like for me, all these numbers, they remind karaoke, you know, like when you go with colleagues to karaoke, when everyone is there, 73%, almost everyone is performing, but only few do it right. I mean, do it beautifully, everyone is right there, right? So why I'm speaking today is that in reality, our company is in these numbers. So we were early with AI, we made a huge bet and it paid off. So I will tell a few words about our history, especially how we started, what we learned during the first year. So first year, we are from the engineering company. I'm an engineer. Our founders are engineers. You know, it was AI. It was there. We were so excited. Oh, great, it will change everything. We tried some AI tools. We were amazed, literally, how great opportunity is. And there were a lot of sales. I mean, I'm sure that whomever, you know, like is on LinkedIn, you could get this like messages from salespeople. Oh, we have a great technology. It's amazing. So we heard that, we tried that, and we decided to jump in with AI. The first thing we did, I think that was the best over 2023. We created a strategy for really strategic document about how we use AI in the company. And we gave it to read to everybody in the company. So how you can use it, what you can do, what you shouldn't be doing, how to use AI tools so they are not harming our compliance and our internal security rules. Because, you know, there were a lot of scandals involving AI tech, you know, like, and so on. That's still happening, that a lot of people like gave up some documents somewhere and afterward they were kind of leaked to the internet. So it's important that security is there. I wrote that document and I wrote a couple for our clients, even for billion company. One of them is using such thing at the moment. It works. A lot of people, you know, when you set the rules, they're coming back with ideas because they are not afraid to make mistake. It's not done under the water. That's important. Then we approach to it as a big bang approach. I hope you know this series. I really like them, about really nerdy people. So we selected the tools and we thought like, okay, let's give these incredible tools to our engineers and they will figure out what to do with them. What happened then was we found out that we have early adopters group. People who learned AI tools by themselves, who were interested. And we have majority that like the tools, they use them, but as soon as management kind of backed off, they came back to usual practices. That was kind of our history. At the end of the day, we gave it to 2 Scrum teams. There was a mix, let's say, productivity games numbers, but it was 2023 as well. You know that AI tools were not so great there. And based on these results, we created an AI Center of Excellence within the company. So dedicated group of people who are working only with AIs and developing our capabilities in that direction. What was next? Next actually was a successful pass. So we've learned 2 things. People are not accepting AI technology easily. Second thing, people have lives, you know. And after work, surprisingly, instead of going to YouTube and trying this AI technology, they are going to gym, family, you know, like bar, whatever. And we have to actively train people. And we've learned another thing. Despite we had a lot of bright engineers who benefited like crazy from AI tools, teams and organization-wise, we didn't see like big movement. And there, boring part started. So for 3 months, we basically made our this Center of Excellence, people involved there, 3 people only studying what happened, interviewing engineers on our side, on client side, reviewing processes as DLC. So we cut it, software development lifecycle, to 12 activities group, and there was as well a distribution of activities. And we applied AI tools to each one of them. By applying, I mean really, it's stopwatch. Do work with, do work without. So we've got the numbers, we understood what works, what doesn't. And surprisingly, there were many AI tools that failed those tests. So we've reviewed around 100 tools like that, and we selected 50 plus tools for better elaboration, deeper elaboration and review. And we selected 1 to 3 tools per activity group. For these 12 activity groups, we selected 1 to 3. Created a report, white paper, it was really popular. Like our marketing and sales were really happy about that. And then we started applying this into work. So I gave a couple of logos to represent the main players that recognizable. Others were pretty niche. So at the end of the day, that was for analysis. We took OpenAI, ChatGPT. No surprise there, I guess. Surprise was that we disregarded, I think around 20 even specialized software specifically designed for business analysis. We've talked about Leon recently, today briefly about the UI as well. There are many plugins, few plugins, but they are really working for Figma, for UI requirements, really working. I'll tell you that from the perspective of effect of AI on workplaces, I believe that business analysts and UI developers are going to be the most affected at the end of the day. Then implementation. So there we've took GitHub Copilot in 2024. This year, it's going to be replaced by Windsurf and a few others. And for testing, we've took many because not all tools performed well for specific activities. So it's it started creating enterprise technology zoo, but it works and it worth it. And I'm moving so fast, but I'm so happy I have still 9 minutes. About our generalization, like our journey overall, how you can benefit from it. For implementation, we did it within our company. And it affected 400 people, 400 engineers and managers. We did it for our clients as well. So in total, think more than 1,200 people implemented the same approach at the end of the day. What was important? So we have a team of really highly trained people with AI tools. So we took our resources of our company, we trained them. Specifically for quality control, for dev, for UI dev, for backend dev, different people, for DevOps and infra, for business analysis and project management. So we trained people with specific tools and really invested. A level of boot camp. So it's, let's say you're taking someone and for 2 weeks he's gone from work, only training somewhere. So pretty big investment. And created such group of experts. By the way, without them, that would fail miserably, really. Second thing is we've created ambassadors group for people to promote the usage of AI tools within big groups. Important as well, because as I've told, surprisingly, there are a lot of people who kind of touched the AI tools on the really kind of high level, never went really deep. And we need to promote it. Especially it is important because none of the company can cover training of AI tools. AI tools still developing, they're changing all the time, like constantly changing. And we calculated that to train one person to be proficient with multiple AI tools, you need roughly 1,000 hours of training. None companies will do it. It's too much. It's not university, right? So people have to do it by themselves. We created curriculums, gave it, they have to do it, and we have to promote it. And we dedicated 1-2 hours per week per engineer. That's what companies paid, at least during implementation for each specific group of engineers, where we walk with them through the process. Was partly for training, and second thing, for them to exchange best practices. Gather in smaller groups, so they can talk what they've learned, exchange, so on, so on, so on. I'll tell that these investments, 1 to 2 hours, actually came from, not from the budget of the company, that's important, but after early implementation of AI tools, there was around 10% immediate gain in productivity that we reinvested into this program. So regarding the overall process, how we went in the company and how we went with our clients. Setup. It is important that you are deploying such tools the same way for multiple teams. Otherwise, again, it's going to be like environment and infrastructure zoo, unmanageable, unmaintainable. And we really helped people to do it. I will give example of complexity here. Who knows what is MCP? Okay, so if you are deploying the AI tool like ChatGPT, I'll simplify it a bit. Like ChatGPT, it is a chat, you're chatting with it, right? It has no direct connection to your data. It doesn't have connection to your source code or to your knowledge base of your company. To enable it, you're setting up MCP servers. It basically describes where to connect, what it can touch in this knowledge base or data source, the rights management, and the last thing, how to interpret the data, at least on some level. And the complexity there, like who knows what is Atlassian Jira? Few, okay. So, and EY, what do you use as a task tracking system? Jira, okay. So, imagine you have 25 teams working on 25 projects. Each of them has access only to their project. Oh, it's fading away. Okay. Has access only to their project, and that's it. And you want to keep its rights management. So you need to set up such server for a team. So it becomes a work itself. It was important to help teams do it right. As well, it's important that not all people technologically savvy, and some people need help even to set up the plugins, AI plugins, right. Important. Training, usage monitoring. Enterprise solutions provide you not only the tools, but as well monitoring to see how people use it, up to prompts. You can read what they ask the system, and afterwards analyze it using the same ChatGPT, of course, because it's too much of data, and see are they doing this right or wrong. To give you an example, when we started, our usual prompt for project management, for example, was something like, I don't know, 100 words top, max. When we ended this implementation internally, our usual initial prompt for project management manager to set up planning of a project with AI tools roughly was 500 words. A lot of data was added, a lot of knowledge was there. That's why it was important for sharing best practices, because some people really nailed it and some people didn't. So it was important that all those prompts are shared. Metrics monitoring, of course, we didn't do it for charity whatsoever. We wanted to improve in specific areas. We've communicated those areas, those metrics, and teams has to improve, and improvement itself. Following, tracking, so on. Where did we get with that? And I'll tell that these numbers are, let's say, up to, but really close to those across the board. I will not read it, you can read it, but just few highlights. Requirements creation, that's all. Business requirements document, functional documents, so on, like user stories, whatever. The gain was 70%. Just applying, implementing, 70% of capacity goes for free to you. New code, roughly 40%. Maintenance and support, almost no effect. It appeared that AI systems are really bad, understanding big context of existing code base, mixed solution, and big implementation of people. Testing, huge impact, really huge impact. So in some cases, like on average, we are talking about doubling the capacity of QAs, or quality control experts. And the last thing is lessons learned. For us, what was kind of interesting finding? Because again, we are a kind of engineering company. We saw like, okay, ChatGPT is great, this is great, that is great, wow. Not focusing on technology. If you have someone in the room who's telling, oh, I know, Windsurf is the best, just tell them, okay, why? Why it is the best? Give me numbers, show me. This is our task we need to perform. Show them how this thing performs better than the rest. Compare with the rest. Tasks are more important than technology, and every company has different tasks and technology. It should be applied there. I will give you an example. With our clients, it was a huge success. It's a huge enterprise. They are running overnight tens of thousands of tests for their system, tens of thousands. And there was a group of people who every morning opens results and start analyzing that stuff. What happened? And there was a really small company, like really tiny company, who designed a plugin for Jenkins with very important thing, with a model that you deploy in your infrastructure. And you are training that model to understand the test run results over the night. And it did. In 2 weeks, that model was trained. And afterwards, I mean, people who had to rotate through this role of analysis of overnight run, I mean, this work disappeared almost completely. I mean, that was amazing result. Then senior leader sponsor required, because people have to be there, they have to make an effort, someone have to motivate them and push them forward. Single objective per team. That was interesting. Some teams nailed coding, failed in quality control. And we are working with Scrum teams, Agile teams, when we have like quality control expert in developers, sometimes PM, so on, so on, so on. Every team has to get own objective where they have to cut capacity spent so they can improve over the period of time. Smart people usually will figure out. Upskilling, I mentioned sharing. That's what the most important. One of our clients, I mean, really big company, how they implemented this piece, For me, that was a bit of overkill at the very beginning, but then it really paid off. They created a prompts database when every team have to deploy at least 1 or 2 suggested prompts every week. The best team will win the prize, by the way, so it's beautiful. And the last thing is to say, number 6, it is almost free to get about 10% of productivity improvement, 5 to 10%, almost free. Just give AI tools, deploy them equally around, people will get it instantly. But getting anything about that requires effort, so on, consultants, EY knows about that, consultants or really effort within the company to move forward. And the last thing that was kind of really important, a bit scary for younger generation, but senior engineers benefited the most because they could use the AI output, convert it, and make beautiful things out of it. Okay, I'm done.
Thanks a lot. I think we learned a lot today, and you know, sometimes this kind of truth are never so evident when you read, you know, newspaper and so on. So it's important to know from the trenches what's going on at the enterprise level. We have time for 3 questions. If someone wants to, you know, some curiosity, some ideas you want to share, yeah, please.
What do you think about the development of a private AI? Because we know that using all these online tools, yes, we can trust them, but and for this reason, I think that it could be the future to develop a private system using our RAG, and the agent for sharing the private knowledge in many companies or big studies, lawyers or law enforcement could be important, not share their data with these big players. What do you think about it? Thank you.
Thank you. That was a big consideration for us because I'll tell, half of our clients and potential clients, they wouldn't like their code to go to any of those tools in reality, with some exceptions, of course. That's why we had a big experiment in our company. We implemented exactly the RAG processing of data. And for us, this is important too, because we don't want, you know, like some regular developer, okay, just let's take this email with names, maybe with some financial data, who knows, we don't know. Just take it, send it to ChatGPT, hope for the best. So we developed internal assistant connected basically to OpenAI from one side. From a second side, already to pre-process data, our data, already cleaned up from any things. And if you send a name in this request through the tool, it will remove the name. OpenAI will receive name 1, blah, 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 get back, post the name back. So anonymization, I mean, this process, it can be done. And in relation to local training of data, the only kind of reason why it's a great idea. It's a great idea. It's a great idea for Google. But if it's a company, let's say, with a budget for whole IT, you know, like 10 mil, unfortunately, there is not much room for that. Only for specific activities, R&D, so on, yeah, definitely. But for others, you have to buy so much data, and it costs so much in reality that I think this train already passed.
Some other questions?
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Richard. An organization being able to analyze using the AI. So my question is just simple. How are we able to validate the results coming from AI so that we know there are no flaws, and then we can be able to track those outputs from the AI?
So sorry, I didn't capture two last words, but I think I understood the context. Thank you for the question. So how we did that analysis, specifically when we analyzed the tools. We had a rating system. We had like multiple considerations. So efficiency was part of that. How efficient those tools, how effective they are, like how much value per money you can get with subscriptions, so on. Then security, compliance, ownership of data, promise of companies, and so on, so on, so on. That's why we didn't play with really small players without really good reason. And the last thing to say that in reality, under the hood, probably you know about that, but a lot of companies that develop their own products, they connect to Azure, Gemini, OpenAI, under the hood. Anyway, the data flows there too. So we gathered all this data to make sure that nothing kind of flows. And for example, OpenAI was considered safe, and some were not considered safe. Because as well, OpenAI already got these easy problems that they fixed. So for example, leakage of data with kind of social engineering and so on, they close those gaps. And some companies simply didn't get into these problems yet.
Thank you. I think, Vadim, you really cover a lot of interesting stuff, and I think we can definitely expand it during the the aperitivo time later on. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
So now we actually move to the SME angle. So we have been talking about big budget, big projects, Silicon Valley, lots of engineers. But I think that the reality, especially I guess for the Italian context, is that when you are at this, we are an SME, your budget is limited. It's hard to hire certain type of skills. And if we look at the other side, that investors, private equity, so entities that invest in the SME cluster, they look at these things as well. So it's not just operational efficiency, which looks like a little bit of a fluffy term, but when we talk about AI, definitely there are investors that look at the opportunity of implementing AI in their deal-making activity. So I'm very glad to have Jacopo Meneguzzo coming from Milan. Jacopo is, is a good friend. We met a few years ago in Doha, and we have been talking about what's happening in Puglia, and he was very keen to share his experience with Palladio Holding, which is essentially a private equity, business. So the idea today is not just another presentation on uses and misuses of SMEs, AI in SMEs, but really, to cover a little bit more your experience when people talk about AI in SMEs, really. So let's sit down. Maybe Marco, if you wanna move the camera, because we have few questions. Yes. I have few questions, and then we have also a poll. So just give me 1 second here. If I make a mistake with a glass of water, it's over. Yeah. So 1 second. I take again our Q&A idea. And so as I said, Jacopo, first of all, thanks for coming. I have a few questions, but before we really jump into the meaty side, I think it's important if you can give us a little bit more like what you guys do, what you're looking for, kind of, summary of the business and your experience as well.
Sure, my pleasure. Well, thank you for having me, and it's always a pleasure to be in Puglia. I'm originally from Veneto, so a little bit further up on the Adriatic Sea, but I would love to be considering myself a little bit of a honorary Pugliese, I guess, in many ways. What Palladio does, well, we're kind of the other side. Like we were talking about innovation, etc. We've been around for 45 years, probably among the oldest, if not the oldest, private equity player in the Italian market. We invest as a holding company, so we don't make many investments. We try to partner with entrepreneurs and operate almost as a financial but also industrial partner. And we have at any given time somewhere between 10 to 15 investments. We invest in mostly Italian SMEs, different spaces from the industrial space to high-end consumer to technology as well. And one actually of our investment happens to be literally a little bit north of here. So it was a great pleasure to come and also meet with one of our entrepreneurs today.
Well, I think it's a great overview of what Palladio does, but I guess we would really want to go into the meaty side now. So again, just to give context, everybody talking about AI, obviously big enterprises, big budget, big POC, but then, I mean, at least my experience, that when people talk about AI in SME, is really like you lose the founders, the entrepreneurs after a few seconds. So from your experience and understanding, you know, when you talk to real, you know, industrial, you know, several sectors, what is really, when we talk about the limited understanding, what is the real limitation that you see among these businesses?
So I was just thinking about one example. To me, when people talk about AI right now, entrepreneurs in particular, but you know, anyone with a company, it's a little bit like when you speak with Italians about football. Everyone is a trainer, everyone knows what's best to do, but no one really knows. And thankfully, you know, not everyone is a trainer, otherwise it would be a disaster. So it's a little bit of the same thing. Everyone thinks they have an understanding of what's going on, but at the end of the day, you start asking them, so what about your data? How do you keep them? Do you have a good ERP system set up? How can you leverage your information? And all of a sudden things start getting a little bit shakier, like, oh yeah, the data, we kind of keep it, but we don't know what we have, we don't know how it's organized. And what you realize at the end of the day is that with a lot of Italian SMEs, the original problem is not even an understanding of AI, but even an understanding beforehand of what do they have as a data set available, how they can actually start taking advantages of that, and after that, what they can do with AI. So at the end of the day, what we've realized more and more is that there needs to be some education from an AI point of view. Honestly, we are also still learning ourselves because we're still, you know, a traditional business working with traditional entrepreneurs. And if you start going for the sky, you risk losing them midway. And what we end up doing usually is going for easier applications. There are some great examples. Again, I was talking about the company Digitarca, which is based here. What they do actually is literally they map cities, municipalities. They were mapping even some sites of art. And they actually use AI because the way they capture information, AI is actually able to understand if there is a difference, if there's a problem, if there is a, you know, a part of a building which is about to collapse or anything like that. But that is the good example. For all the other companies, usually what happens is maybe they're using AI to write an email or, you know, maybe to do some research. And that's kind of the level at which you stop pretty much, unfortunately. Okay, so basically you confirm what we see around. So your sample is pretty much in line with what we hear. But I guess the second question, which is kind of related when we talk about AI, I mean, we know data is the most important stuff that you have to sort it out first of all, and obviously the data is still again a technology problem for pretty much all the companies in your portfolio, as the one also that you look for potential deals. What is the situation on the data side among your SME experiences? So in my previous life, I was a consultant, and I will answer as a consultant. It depends. So that's really that's always the case. You may have some companies that track their data very well. They try to take even within the company. Literally, we have a clothing brand, and I think between different parts of the company, you have different levels of understanding of the data, of management, etc. So it's difficult to give an answer. It really depends. I think what is our role is to partner with entrepreneurs that we find to be, you know, very far-sighted, that really want to build something great, and help them in all the areas in which we can provide some additional help. So going back to the data question, honestly, I think a lot of times the problem is understanding the data that they have. You may have a situation where people actually are not even aware of the richness they have within their company. then actually doing a good job also of cleaning up the data, because more often than not, it's a mess, let's be honest. And I mean, I'm talking about that applies to companies small and big, no matter what. And then actually starting to capitalize on that. Once you've done all this heavy lifting, then yes, we can start talking about applications, how AI can actually have an impact, improve processes, etc. I mean, ultimately, every single entrepreneur is always looking for improving their processes, improving their company's trajectory in the cheapest possible way. So whatever you start talking about, we can clean the data, we can analyze it, we can do this. The first thing they will ask you is how much does it cost me? And then eventually you will get to that.
So I guess the takeaway is really the internal teams should pitch to the entrepreneurs in the same way a startup is pitching to investors.
Basically,
give me the money to find to fund the next milestone.
No, tell me what the value. Just
the
play
value?
it as a value game, and that's the only way to go. Even I internally, when I speak with other entrepreneurs, I actually need to tell them we're doing this because we're not. Let's not even think about what it's gonna cost, the process, etc. This is the outcome. This is the concrete result. Oh, by the way, we are using AI to do that. Wonderful.
Yeah.
But be very concrete.
Technology is not the solution.
Yeah.
Is the tool to reach the business goal. Another point is we hear that people sometimes is kind of they get from the boss that they have to do something, but sometimes you also hear great success stories coming from the bottom up. So what is your experience about where the fire, where the initiative is really coming from, and what is more effective in a way?
Again, you're gonna hate me. I think it depends. But truth be told, I think what you see a lot of, at least in small and medium enterprises where we invest, you may have probably a smaller percentage of company leaders, entrepreneurs, managers who are very excited about this and are trying to experiment with that. But they're often very busy. So I think what I've seen being more successful is maybe having some people that would be considered more junior, in quotes, that end up actually maybe creating a good use case, and then they may be becoming a company champion, let's say, of AI or something like that. I mean, we're always looking at companies that are relatively small, and a lot of these tend to have, I guess, some team dynamics which are like some of the small team, etc. So if you actually have one that has a good experience, a good example, then it tends to be pretty easy to share within the rest of the company and then actually make it in a good example. I'm talking about things which are not done in necessarily a structured way, more in an organic way. I do think there is some value into actually start to push for more of a organic top-down adoption, but at least for most of the SMEs we are seeing, we're not there yet.
Interesting. I guess the next question is really more about, automation is nothing new. It's been forever. But it's still the only thing that sometimes I hear about AI. So basic automation activity without going into the next level. Is it true in the SME land?
I think so. Sometimes I would say I wish it was even that. I mean, you may not even get to that level. But the truth of the matter is...
So that's marketing.
No, but entrepreneurs are concrete people, right? I mean, they are always they're saying, okay, I can spend 7 hours training on AI, or I can spend 7 hours talking with this client, this client, this client. I would say probably at least more than half of the entrepreneurs would probably choose the second option. It's a matter of habit, tradition, etc., etc. Now, I think this is where there's a lot of value for advisors, for consultants that are maybe working very close to them, also for financial players like us, because we need to be the ones to actually, we want entrepreneurs to be busy doing what they do best, and leave it to us to actually try to bring in something new, some new ways of doing it, because they are doing exactly what they're supposed to do. We can provide these additional inputs, additional information, maybe bring in also some additional knowledge, help them to find some additional people to actually take the companies to the next level. Sometimes maybe that's the best division of labor.
Yeah, I agree. I think this goes back to what we were discussing about at lunch when we were saying, lots of private equity in the past, they were just essentially investing cheap in a cheap company and just, hope for the best. I guess that the key aspect is given everything we have discussed today, and the boost that, if you do the right step in data first and AI later, also the role of a private equity could change. It could evolve into something that is much more hands-on. I always say, we have great example, with I can't remember the big Italian company that does private equity into tech, right? The big one. That I cannot remember now the name, but the story is they are successful because they have an army of software engineers, of data scientists involved in any deal they do. So they extract the best out of it. But obviously that is SaaS. It's typically tech. Yeah. But where do you see this happening potentially in more traditional private equity deals, and how also your company's ways kind of positioning on this trend?
Well, if you go back in time, and I'll prove that I'm very old, or older than you may think. When you look at Barbarians at the Gate, when they were talking about the beginning of KKR, of the pioneers in private equity, let's be honest, in a big part, that was financial engineering. Buy low, sell high. And a lot of times what happened was buy a company, try to combine it with a few others, the multiple will increase and you'll sell at a higher return. Yep. Yeah, and try to reduce the cost along the way. I think the game is very different right now. I've seen a couple of researches where they were saying basically for years, the market was, the multiple at which you were buying a company was increasing over years. So practically just holding a company or an asset, you were going to be fine. Now there is so much more that needs to be done in terms of improving the companies, improving the margins, help them grow, etc. And I think in most of the successful private equity players, us included as a private equity player, you see that there is a growth of operating partners. So you may have people that focus a lot on operations, people that actually bring a technological angle, people that may bring even an HR or an accounting element to it. Because ultimately what you want to offer is not only the capital, but for lack of better words, the smart capital. And I've seen time and time again cases where entrepreneurs would turn down maybe even a higher offer for a partner they perceive to be not only a financial partner, but sort of a industrial partner, if you will. So going back to your previous question, yes, I think it's changing quite a lot. And I think you cannot just play the good old financial engineering game.
Well, I think, we really cover lots of important takeaways when you deal with AI in the SME setting. What we would like to do now is just do a little poll where we hear a little bit your stories. This is anonymous. I'm not going to say anything. We are not storing anything. It's really about what is your perception of in your firms about what is the AI adoption. I think today we have a little bit of everything, big companies, small companies, startups, professionals. So it's really 3 questions, yes or no, super basic, but it gives us a sense of, what is the sample here today. When you reply to the question, but I mean, coming just to wrap up on this, I think what we learned in the first speech, in the first talk, was really about, enterprises willing to take risk and implementing, radical improvements potentially in the organization. Obviously, they have the budget and they have the best-in-class talent and they have access to it. Now, the SMEs are always, people always say that they are the underserved, the usual story that, the best style is not going to the SME. But I think given all this AI transformation where a lot of activities within a firm can be, in a way, commoditized, right? You mentioned, as an entrepreneur, you really care about execution. Like if you're a startup founder, you care about products and selling, and everything else is just bureaucracy around. I guess that with your speech was really about covering the full spectrum, and it gives the confirmation that actually the SME, there is still a massive opportunity if you actually leverage AI versus the big corporates that obviously have access to everything typically. But yeah, let me just move to the answers here.
But as you check, I do think that AI has a role to play to level the playing field, and in many ways maybe make some, like, enable companies to access some information that they may not have as easily otherwise.
So, first question was about, you know, are you satisfied with your AI adoption in your firm? Obviously, it's kind of a 50-50 type, so I guess it kind of confirms what, you know,
what we saw before.
Exactly. So this is actually interesting. The second question is about, coming back to the point that without data culture, there is no AI. It's just marketing. But this is encouraging. It means that, you know, there is much more data awareness across firm size. And the third, let me see if I can go. And the third is like, okay, what is the next step? What would you suggest to your firm to accelerate the AI adoption? And the first answer is AI education, which actually goes back to the first speech, which was about you have to dedicate. People don't spend their spare time learning AI because they have also other things to do. So you need to find the time within an organization to train your team.
And
right?
also I would say you need to guide them, right? Because you may have someone who is enthusiastic about AI and spend it to create pictures rather than maybe improve processes. So it's a very different thing.
Yeah, I mean, Jacopo, thanks a lot for coming here and for sharing your knowledge today with us. Please. And thank you. And now we move to, well, actually, maybe we have a couple of questions. Jacopo, if you want to just come here again, I'm just going to ask, we have time for 2 questions.
You mean I'm not off the hook yet?
Sorry?
I'm not off the hook yet.
Yeah. Few questions here. Some questions? Paolo, one.
So just a quick question related to how difficult it is to make, you know, entrepreneur also perceive the value of AI adoption and also digital transformation connected to that. Based on your experience, which are like some strategies that you personally use to convince both your team internally to adopt AI tools, as well as also in the portfolio companies of Palladio?
So
thank you.
So I think if you think about that, most entrepreneurs are by definition, to simplify, competitive. I mean, they want to achieve something, right? And also within our company, usually we have people who are very driven. So sometimes it's a kind of a nudging and kind of saying, oh, you know, that other company did that. And that can be a good way to actually get people starting to think about that. And like, oh, well, if they did that, then I want to do it as well. Or I want to prove that I'm at least equally good and I want to do that same thing. You know, a bit of reverse psychology, but sometimes that goes a long way. The other case can be a very simple, what is the practical result? What is the cost cutting? What is the advantage in production? And that sometimes goes a long way.
Another question? Yes, Vadim.
Thanks. I'm really interested about Italy. I live here now, so that's why. Thank you for your speech. From your experience, like SMEs specifically, we know that big companies right now invest in data, everything. That's why we have this incredible growth of positions of data analyst, data engineer, so on, so on, so on. So how really like small, medium enterprises are serious about that? Do they really consciously think about that?
I think they should be more serious about that, and I'm gonna get in trouble for saying that, but I think a lot of times we're still at the stage where I need to invest in something. Well, at first I'll invest in a new salesperson, or at first I will invest something like that, and then eventually you get there. It takes some time and effort to kind of convey and actually make this mind shift change. Honestly, in that, I don't know how much Italy is different from other countries, to be honest. I lived in the States for quite a while, so, you know, before we were talking about people coming back to Italy, I think Marco and I have that in common. I think probably when you go to the small company level, again, it's kind of like I focus on the result, and I need to be convinced or told that there is a reason to invest in that. But hopefully things are a little bit changing, and I think we are bombarded by enough examples, enough stories, etc., that it is a little bit changing. And again, as we were saying before, maybe for SMEs can be something to actually level more the playing field, because you don't need to create ChatGPT now to actually be able to leverage some of its potential. Some companies may be working with some specific agents. You can actually do a lot more with a lot less than, you know, a few years ago.
Thanks, Jacopo. Thanks for your insights. So now we move to the fast batch, which is more about showcasing what local startups are doing across different vertical industries. So now we have Sergio from Unicorn Puglia that will tell us about more an AI solution for the healthcare.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Sergio Santoro, a co-founder of Unicorn. Unicorn Puglia is a small, young startup based in Bari. We have our headquarters in Santo Spirito, next to the sea. Our team is a team that is very vertical on healthcare. We have a lot of experience. We came from different histories, but every one of us has already worked in healthcare. And have you ever booked an exam, a diagnostic procedure? If you have booked a diagnostic procedure nowadays, probably you have been stuck on a queue waiting for someone to respond to your phone call or to answer to your message. Some clinics use WhatsApp or other messaging systems. What we have seen in our experience is that you have to wait an average time coming from 3 to 4 hours to get an answer. The average time. So sometimes it's like 1 hour and sometimes it's like 10, 12 hours. And so if you think of someone that needs an exam urgently, that has to wait like 5 hours just to have an answer, to know if the clinic can do the exam, can do the examination, and can schedule. We have thought that it would be great if it would be possible just to send a couple of messages or just to send a photo of your prescription, medical prescription, and have a quick response. That's why we have built Alia. I present you Alia, our solution. Alia is an agentic AI that is able to reduce by more than 75% the front desk workload in a clinic or in an hospital, because she's able to schedule exam, to manage bookings, to provide technical details, and to speak different languages. And the best result we have obtained, because we are in production with some clients, is that now patients do not have to wait for a quick answer, for a response, and most of the bookings, most of the activities are now completely and fully managed by Alia, that can scale horizontally and that can answer in minutes and complete a booking. What are the advantages of such a solution? First of all, the quick feedback, the high scalability, the empathy, the ability to respond always in a good manner to the patient, to be flexible, to understand the need of the patient, and to guide the patient differently from all the chatbots technology that was like, they never understood what I need. And it's multilingual, can speak more than 50 different languages. I leave you with message. Chat with Alia. Just take a photo to the QR code and ask to Alia what she can do for you. Thank you. I finished.
So thanks for the presentation. I guess the couple of questions are always like, one from a technology perspective, one from a business perspective. So from a technology perspective, the stack is to use certain type of OpenAI, Gemini, and so on, doing your own fine-tuning, and then adding some integration with ERP, I guess. Could you tell us a little bit more from a pure technology perspective, what happened behind the scene?
Okay, yes. First of all, a lot of time we have spent on security and privacy. So we have built a layer that filters every request. We had an approach of privacy by default and security by design. And on the other side, we need to integrate with scheduling systems. So on the other side, we had to build a system that was able to help our agent to act like a real front desk person. So to be able to manage all the aspects, all the that are peculiar to the healthcare examinations. Duration that can be variable, availability of the machines, availability of the ambulatory, and for example, one of our clients has 2 different facilities. So the ability to know where to schedule the right exam. And that was from the technical part, the hardest part to manage, the security, the privacy, and the scheduling system that is behind. Well, the large language model acts more like a tool that can talk the language of the patients and that can interpret the needs, just only for that.
Okay. Second question, very fast because we're a little bit tight now, is what you're looking for. Investors, clients here in Puglia or abroad. What is the financial targets?
We have our journey. We are now searching for both partners and investors because we want to scale up this technology. We want to scale up this technology nationwide and probably also outside. And on the other side, we are searching also for clients, but they are coming in a very easy way because we are solving a real problem. And so that's it. Thank you.
Great. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Sergio. So now we move to the last pitch. So now we have a proper British dude pitching us in, where is it? From America. Brits. Well, we have Anthony, the CEO of Voicebook. Sorry. And because what we do, is a strange format. So we are in Bari and we have this kind of English, events, right? Some people said, "Oh, you should do it in Italian." And well, I think the best way is always to embrace what is the global way of doing business, which is English, right? So that's why it's important to write emails, but also to speak the right language in the right way. And that's why we have Anthony today pitching about his solution, which is solving a very important problem here in Puglia, actually. Well, the stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Well used. Right.
And you can actually. Yeah.
Great. So I'm a kind of Pugliese. Is this working? Yeah. Is it? I mean, I can talk without it, but yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. So I'm. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. That's okay. So Anthony Green, I began a startup about 6 years ago based at Impact Hub, where this lady is. And we're a team of educators and tech people. And you probably all know that most Baresi wouldn't be able to sit here and listen to me speaking because after 5 seconds, you see their faces go. So it's a real problem. Yeah, yeah. But it's not confined to Bari. It's not confined to Italy. It's all over the world. There are 1.5 billion people who are learning English, and nearly all of them have this problem, that they reach a threshold and they cannot go any further. Yeah. So you were saying before that technology is not the solution; it's just a tool. Yeah. And very often in the language world, you've heard of Duolingo, of course. You know, Duolingo is great technology, but there's not very much ed tech in Duolingo, and so it's boring and it doesn't work very well. I say that Duolingo a little bit bigger than us. They've been going a little bit longer. Okay, so this great challenge, helping people to understand real spoken English, yeah, when you're sitting in a Zoom call or whatever it is, yeah. So we're talking about a huge number of learners, 1.5 billion, and these traditional methods just aren't working. I don't know, I suppose you all did English at school, and out came the listening exercise, and you froze and started to panic, etc. Or because you're part of the elite, it's difficult to understand what people a little bit further down have a problem with. But I don't see why this shouldn't be a right to be able to understand what I'm speaking about now. And it's not the fault of the 1.5 billion learners that they're all having a panic about listening, about communication, because English has sounds that other languages just don't have. And it's fast, it's messy, it's unpredictable. And so it's normal. Maybe I'm speaking above the threshold of a few people here. And so learners have to rely on instinct. And that's great. It's a really useful thing to have. But very often it's the only arrow that we have in our quiver. And it's not enough. And so people are walking around with their blindfolds on. Not just students, but also teachers. Have you ever tried to read the mind of somebody when they're listening to you and cannot understand? That's pretty difficult. Okay, this is what VoiceBooks aims to deal with for you. So it's about training, listening, and not just hoping that people are going to understand, not just repeating again and again. Before, Vadim, you were talking about tasks, not technology. Again, let's get the educators in there. The educators can be the designers, and the tech people can, a successful ed tech has to be ed before it's tech. Whereas most of the time it seems to be tech, and then, okay, maybe we'll get some ed people to come along, education people to come along and have a look. And that's not working. People are terribly bored by all of these online tools. And so the real innovation starts here, but we must be creating something that no teacher can do on their own, because no teacher can do that reading of the mind of 20 kids sitting in front. I have no idea what you're hearing when I'm speaking like this. Yeah? And so I can't help you. I can't help you to improve your listening unless you use this kind of technology. And the idea is also to change completely the idea. When you go to school or at university, you have to do a listening exam. You notice how your muscles all become very rigid. What we want to do is, with video games where you want to make mistakes, because if you make mistakes, then you're going to learn something. And if you're going to learn something, you're going to get it right. You're going to improve. This is the approach that VoiceBooks take. In all of the rest of the sector, it's, I daren't make a mistake. If I make a mistake, I'm going to do brutta figura, as we say in Puglia. So, and another way we change things around completely is that we ask the user to say what it is that they've understood, and then we say, okay, we don't care about that. That's not interesting. That you don't need us for what you already understand. Now, let's get our hands dirty and let's work on the noise. All of that stuff that you couldn't understand. And we've designed it in a way so that the learner can find that they do have the ability deep down inside. They can use their own devices, if you'll pardon the pun, in order to get it, in order to find out what it is that they couldn't understand. And so at the end, they generally look at each other and go, hey, it wasn't that difficult after all. So it's interactive rather than passive, which you're normally finding. And so it's clearly rewarding. If their interaction gets them results, then that's great. But the most important thing is to concentrate on the process. So much of education concentrates on the results. Well, who cares what the results are? You know, you can look up the results in the index. It's the process of changing, of going, oh my goodness, I couldn't understand that word that for years and years and years I couldn't understand the word If I tell you to write the word can you write it? Anyone? Now, it's not perhaps a coincidence that the answer came from a Dutch person sitting there. Okay, so if that word AND, which is you probably know quite well, is causing problems for you when you're listening, you can imagine how many other errors you're having. Now, I had no idea when I asked that question whether anybody was going to answer or not. But clearly you're using a lot of intuition, like we said before, yeah? And so you can probably imagine that using this sort of technology, I haven't been able to show it to you, but I'm very happy to show it to you later. The intuition is set aside, and your own resources are most important. And so people are going up. We have a school in Sardinia, up in the mountains of Sardinia, where they raise sheep. And normally in these Invalsi exams, I don't know if you know those, at the end of the school year, of the school career, they were getting 28% pass rate on the listening, and the voicebook classes went up to 90. And we had a look and to see who didn't pass, and they were the ones who didn't take part in, we were unable to engage them. So we're able to improve that sort of thing. And as a slide I read last week said, I think it might have been when you came to Impact Hub, it said if your output doesn't change when you add real data to your AI is just a toy. Okay, we've built up a number of years of data now, and we every day when I go on there and I have a look at the data, I get to read their minds because they've been writing in what they thought they understood. I go, oh yeah, well yeah, of course. And I realize how difficult English is. It's not just at the level of but all sorts of things. So it's not a toy. It gives real insights. It empowers a learner. It empowers a teacher. And now we're looking to scale up, because now we can put AI to good use, because we've got data that nobody else in the whole world has. And so we can start to understand what it is that people need if they're going to scale up their listening skills. So we're looking for educators, investors, partners. You know, if you've got something practical that you could bring to this, it would be a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.
Super interesting talk and presentation. I guess one question that we haven't discussed in the past is like, if I use this as a mid to senior, let's say, English speaker, how fast I reach the level that you would expect as a good, English speaker?
Well,
within, obviously, with your method, your
just
technology.
Comparing the
Comparing
normal
to
way of doing
the old
things.
way.
Yeah. So what we found is that 80% of the time you're working in what we call the zone of proximal development, i.e. you've hit your threshold and then everything that you're working on is a little too difficult for you. What we've seen is that there's a big difference working 80% of your time on your zone of proximal development. You see a big difference in 10 to 15 hours of use. And if you can split that up into quarter of an hour a day, it's much better than doing it on a Sunday when the kids are screaming and things like that.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot for the presentation. I guess we're gonna hear more stories during the aperitivo about the why you are in Bari, why the company's in Bari, and so on.
Yeah.
So I guess we want to enjoying a bit now the view we have from this fantastic office of EY today. So again, thanks a lot for coming today. And just as a wrap up, we have now the aperitivo outside. If obviously we share the QR code, but we have a website. You want to be involved, you want to be a speaker, you want to bring corporates, everything that makes sense to bring a community here that has different stakeholders, investors, entrepreneurs, regional institutions, professionals. Everybody should be connected, and PugliaTechs could be the way to actually do it. So that's our goal, and again, it's just a way, kind of a call to action to promote and to push what we are doing. So again, thanks again all for coming today, and I hope we're gonna see you soon.